All right, Amy, thanks so much for being on the Friends with Wheels podcast. If I could,
Of course.
if I could start off by asking a little bit about you and how you started, let's do that, and we can go from there.
Okay, great. So I'm Amy Nobile Messing. I am a holistic dating coach, and I've been doing this about 7 years. I never in a million years thought I would be a dating coach. It's the biggest plot twist of my life. I was in marketing and PR. I had co-written some books about motherhood and marriage, and I suddenly was divorced after 20 years of marriage. And I was sort of I tossed myself out into single life in New York City in my 40s, and I was completely befuddled. It was really tough. It was really challenging. I taught myself how to sort of learn how to crack the code of modern dating. And I found my new husband on Bumble. And then I started this company because I had so many people come to me and say, like, how did you do this? And help me because dating is so hard right now. So help me, help me. So Love Amy was sort of born out of just a need that I saw.
Mm-hmm. And now that you bring that up, I gotta ask this, because I've been sort of thinking about this a lot. Like, do dating apps really work? Because obviously you met your husband on Bumble, but like, what kind of works? Because the way dating was like now, it's so different than when it was back then. I remember my parents, they met in college when they were younger, but it's now just so different.
It's so different. It's so different. When I was newly divorced, I was scared to go on the apps. I had only heard horror stories. Everybody told me that it was not safe, that they're not safe, that you don't meet anybody good on the apps, that the people on the apps are sort of different than the people in real life. And the way my brain works, it's sort of like nerdy anthropology brain. I couldn't actually accept that answer. I thought that can't be true. It's just that right now everybody is so consumed with devices and technology, and everybody's so singular, right? Even if you're sitting in a coffee shop, if like I'll walk into a coffee shop with a client to teach them how to connect with people in real life, and nobody is looking up, it's almost impossible to strike up a conversation. So, I wanted to see if the apps really did work. And at first, I really came up against all the challenges that I hear people talk about, which is I was scared to swipe. I was scared to give out my information. I didn't know how to strike up a conversation with somebody on an app looking at my phone. And so what I realized is, it is somewhat of a numbers game. I think what people do is they pop open the app, they swipe for a minute or two, they get scared and they think, okay, there's nobody that looks good to me. And or the people I like aren't liking me back, or the people I don't want to talk to are trying to talk to me. So and then they just abandon ship. And so what I realized is it's a numbers game. Like you have to say hi to like multiple people every single day. Just hi. If they're kind of in the zone, I call it in the zone. If they just tick a few basic boxes, nobody knows how to do this well. Nobody's pictures are great. Nobody really knows what to write. So if you can just say, okay, they're in my age range, their pictures are fine. Fine. Okay. I kind of like what they're saying. It's fine. Like you're never going to be excited. You're not going to pop open an app and go, "Oh, this is so exciting." You just have to know you're going to not feel the way you want to feel, but you have to look at it like, "Okay, numbers game. I'm fine. I'm going to say hi. Okay, hi." Hi. And when you say hi to someone on an app, don't just say hi, right? You want to say, like, what's your favorite podcast? Or what's a good book that you've read lately? Or what's a great coffee shop in our area, right? So it's like you want to ask a question so that people have something to answer. So
Mm-hmm.
you literally like, realize that if you say hi to 10 people on a Tuesday, maybe one or two, maybe will match with you, right? And of those one or two, maybe one of them will say something. So it's like it might take you a couple of weeks before you start to feel like, oh, I'm making an interesting connection, but you're not going to feel excited.
Hmm. Because I can relate to that because I remember I was talking to a friend and she talked about how she met her husband through OkCupid, which is a dating app, and she told me she's been using it since 2010, and she met her husband on the app like about for about a year, and then they married a year later. But and so I tried it for myself, and I'm just like, nope, it's too complicated. I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
it. You know, they ask you for like more trial memberships or whatever that is. I just said nope, I'm not gonna do it. So
Totally, totally. And I think I always use this analogy, which I think is sort of interesting, right? Let's say you were looking for a new house and you wanted to find a modern, mid-century modern house, right? And there's this cool new app uh, to find a house. So you pop open the app and all you're seeing are old brick houses, right? Would you be emotionally upset? Like, would you be scarred from that? No, you would probably say, "Oh, wow, there are not a lot of modern houses out there. I'm just going to have to kind of keep going and see what's out there," right? But because dating and love are so tied to our emotions and they're so tied, it's such a heartfelt issue for us. And it's also tied to the wounds we have in love, right? That it becomes this personal assault. It's like, there's nobody. Oh my gosh, I said hi to 10 people and nobody said hi to me back, right? It feels personal. And we have to remember, we don't know these people. They don't know us, right? We might be their trigger. So it's just keeping in mind that we have to almost remove ourselves a little when we're swiping and just it's just another method of it's just an introduction technology. I think people want to think of dating apps as like, this is going to build a connection. It's not. It's all it is introduction technology. That's it.
hmm yeah, because I feel like with the dating apps, they're trying to like customize like a match like to their perfect standards. Because I feel like you know how people like meet with like mutual friends or like, oh, you're a friend. I know a friend of a friend who does that. Did you sort of get that in your sort of dating experience or like before Bumble and stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting. I found it really tough. Like I had a lot of friends who said, "Oh, I'll set you up. I know so many people." And then I was out of my divorce, like nobody, literally nobody set me up. I got no setups. I found it incredibly hard to meet people in real life. I really don't think I don't even know if I went on one date in real life, like without an app. So I was like coming up dry. And that's when I thought I better figure this app thing out because nothing else is working. And um, and so I went on tons of dates through the apps, actually.
hmm And so, how do you help other people with their dating struggles? Because obviously, you know, I'm in that same camp too of like newly single and trying to get mutual friends to connect with, you know, to see if
Yeah.
they know friends of friends. So like, how do you sort of do that with, how do you sort of that tie your experience into your work?
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. I have a client right now who she's really determined to meet someone in real life versus the apps. And so she calls it her dating PR. So what she did, and I helped her do this, is she put together a really quick paragraph, just a paragraph on her, like what lights her up and who she is and kind of her energy. And she took one picture and she just put it like in a one pager and she emailed it to 200 people, like, and they were friends and colleagues and ex-colleagues and friends of friends, right? So she just blasted it out and she immediately got 3 dates for via setups. So I think there are unique different ways, but we have to make a big effort. I think we think like, oh, people are just going to remember me. I'm sure everyone has single friends. No, everyone's concerned with themselves. No one's going to remember that you're newly single and that they want to set you up. You have to actively cultivate those connections. So don't be afraid to call up that friend. Don't be afraid to send an email out saying, "Hey guys, FYI, 2026 is my year for love. Like I'm going to find my person. I need your help." So I think that's something to keep in mind.
hmm And so, what are some of the strategies you use as a dating coach to sort of help them through that?
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to meeting people, I think one of the biggest strategies is we have to get out, literally get out there. What does that mean? Live the life now. Don't put your life on hold until you meet that person, right? Like if you've always wanted to take a French class, or if you've always wanted to try hiking, or if you've always wanted to, learn how to play guitar, let's say, don't wait. Don't put your dreams on hold, because when you're actively pursuing your dreams, you're lit up, you're vibrating high, you are happy. That energy is really magnetic and it's really felt. So for instance, I had a client who, she's always wanted to write, like write a screenplay. So she took this creative writing class and she met this amazing guy in the class, and they had a great romance. And so you don't do it because you want to meet someone. Oh, I think I'm gonna find people if I learn how to do XYZ, but do something that you really love. Like I have a client who just took a cooking class, an Italian cooking class, and met someone really interesting in that class. So it's just coming from a shared love of something.
Mm, that's an that's a great way to put it. Like, you know, because oftentimes the reason why people go out, to find someone is because, they fear of being alone. I remember when I was doing talking to my therapist about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said to her, I don't want, I fear of being alone. That's why I'm actively pursuing, someone to a partnership because, life is short and you only live once, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as what we know of, right? We'll see what happens. But I think you're absolutely right, is that a lot of times we act from fear. And as with anything in life, if you're approaching life in fear, like I hope that I get this so that I can sort of like lessen my fear, that's really not going to be satisfying to you. You have to figure out a way. Like I tell people all the time, date yourself. And people are like, what are you talking about? I had to learn that. Like I wasn't very comfortable being alone. I realized like I wasn't comfortable going to a restaurant alone. I wasn't very comfortable going to a movie alone. I had to figure out, oh my gosh, wait, I'm actually a good time. I'm funny. I'm fun to be with. I like being with me. And it's kind of surprising to me how few people have spent real time with themselves in a meaningful, fun way. Not, oh, I have all day Sunday. What am I going to do? It's more like plan your dream day and treat yourself to it, not like trudge through it like, oh, I'm alone again. What can I set myself flowers. I remember getting them, and for a split second, I forgot that I had sent them. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, oh, they're for me. And that, dance to your favorite song, like, get your blood moving every day, like in some way. Like, I love, like, you know, playing my favorite music just to lift my mood up. So I think it's a matter of figuring out what makes you special and really believing it. Like, okay, I'm funny, or I'm a really caring friend, or I just, I love hanging out with myself. And once you reach that point, then of course that's magnetic. Someone else is going to want to hang out with you. But if you walk around, if you're sort of thinking, I actually don't really like myself that much, that is a tough energy to date.
Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes, like when people are on the apps, they're trying to find like the perfect match, the perfect guy that satisfies all their needs, like a grocery shopping list, you know. But like I feel like whenever they're going to pursue that goal, they oftentimes fall short. Like what they're looking for on that list isn't what is exactly on there. It's rather unexpected. It's spontaneous.
Hmm.
And I feel like when people sort of create lists in their head of what they want in a perfect match, they fall short.
I think you're bringing up a really great point. And I call this visioning, like kind of doing some work on what you want in a person, inside and out, more inside, because we can have a vision of who we want to attract, but it's never the package we think, right? It's always, because you're looking for a soul connection. And so the point you're making is really important. I have people come to me a lot and they have this really, 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 really long list. And a lot of times the things on the list are pretty superficial, right? But I've kind of come up with four pillars that people need. Like you really have to have these four pillars in order for a relationship to be healthy. And then the other things around it, you need to be a little bit flexible on. But the four pillars are this: you want to have some kind of chemistry. And I'm not talking about like big fireworks that we're taught, like Disney fireworks. I'm talking about like a safety, a warmth, a connection you feel with them. Like it can be a really strong emotional connection too. So chemistry is the first pillar. The second pillar is core values. Okay. So you want to figure out, what do I stand for? You know, do I stand for family? Do I stand for gratitude? Do I stand for honesty, adventure? What are your, top 4 or 5 core values that you really live by, right? And then when you're dating, you can ask questions to see if someone's aligned with you. Someone might say, oh, I don't really, family's not important to me, right? Or for me, gratitude is really important. So I would ask people what you're grateful for. So now we have chemistry and core values, right? Then we need emotional maturity. Okay. And that's a tricky one. That means, can someone own their part in the relationship? Can they own their mistakes? Do they have space for you and your feelings? Can they, even if they don't understand your feelings, can they try to, and want to? And the fourth pillar is readiness, right? So if you want a relationship and you really want to go deep, go big, and someone's not really ready for that, that's not going to work. And so there are ways in dating to kind of ask if they're ready and why they think they're ready. And if you have those four pillars, then all the other things, you can consider them. Like if you love to do a certain activity, play a certain game, and they don't like to play games at all, you can consider that. But without those four pillars, the relationship, it's like a foundation of a house. So I just wanted to sort of tell your listeners that.
Yeah, because I think like movies and TV sort of often play a role in that. Because I remember seeing the movie Materialist earlier last year, and it's about this matchmaker, and sort of
Yeah.
she matches people based on certain qualities and aspects, but she in her love life she doesn't know how to do that. She meets two people. One of them is the perfect catch. He's a guy in private equity. He earns a lot of money, owns a
Yep.
penthouse, and the other one is her ex, emotionally her unstable sort of person that lives with roommates and stuff like that. And so she has to kind of navigate those two worlds of like, what does she want? What are her
Hmm.
values? That kind of thing. So that's what I took from that movie. And yeah,
Hmm. Exactly. Exactly. It's like, are you going for superficial and is that really going to sustain you? Or, right, it's the deeper values, what we really, really want. When you're 95 years old and you're sitting next to this person, you know, the good looks, the penthouse, it's like what really matters. It's going to be a soul connection that based on core values for sure.
yeah, because I feel like a lot of comments on that movie were like strange. They're like kind of like, oh, I shouldn't have she shouldn't have gone back to her ex. She should have stayed with her perfect catch. And I'm like, what? Like what?
I know. Yeah, it was really interesting, the feedback. Yeah, it was really interesting. I especially found it pretty fascinating.
Oh, did you watch it?
It's funny. I didn't at first. Everybody told me to watch it, right? Everyone's like, you need to see this. And so I was on a plane and I put it on, and it was sort of like, I watched it. I didn't love it. I thought it was just a bit sort of like kind of it reduced dating to sort of, a one-dimensional aspect in my mind. But I appreciated the message, from a core value standpoint.
And what have you learned in doing this kind of work as a dating coach?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. What I've learned is love can come in so many packages. Love is never going to be a linear path the way we think. And your person, like kind of your soulmate, is not who you think ever. It's like, we think it's going to go a certain way, and we think we're going to meet them a certain way, and we think they're going to look a certain. And it's like we have to suspend that judgment. We have to say, okay, if I want a soul connection, I have to let the universe. I'm very spiritual. I have to let the universe play a role here. And I have to release my grip on like the way it needs to be so that I can let the magic unfold. And every time with my clients, the minute they kind of like put it out, okay, here I am. This is what I'm looking for from a soul perspective. And then they let it go. Right. And then they kind of flirt with life and have fun with life. That's when the person comes.
hmm And like, is there anything that you'd like to learn in terms of something new as a dating coach or relationship coach, or what's on your mind?
That's another great question. I feel like I'm always learning. I think my clients teach me something every day. It's really wonderful. My clients are ages 23 to 80, and I learn the most from my 74-year-old male client who is just the most incredible guy. And he looks at life as like an adventure and joyful. And he's like the youngest spirit in a 74-year-old's body. Like I adore him. So I just feel like I feel really blessed and lucky to do this because I'm always learning.
Mm-hmm. And what tips or advice do you have for those who, you know, are kind of struggling to find, their perfect person or find themselves in order to find that perfect person? Because a lot of times, and a friend told me about this, he said that, you in order to find the perfect person, you have to love yourself.
I love that advice. I think that's true, but I think it's also it can sound really intimidating. Like you need to fall in love with yourself first. It's like we're a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. But if you can realize that you were born lovable, like every single, just by being on this earth, okay, by having the chance to be a human for 5 minutes on this spinning globe, right? Being lovable is your birthright. Name one toddler that is sitting there saying, I'm all right. I'm not great. It's like we are all born into love. Like, it's all about love. And when we die, it's all about love. Somewhere along the line, when we are 5, 6, 7, 8, we start to realize, like, uh-oh, maybe I'm not fully lovable, right? And that's just the way it goes. So, our job is to come back to that state of why not me? I'm lovable. I'm just for existing, like just for as I am. I don't need to change a thing. And once I see people start to like shift their mindset a little bit and realize I don't have to do anything. I am lovable. That's when they feel better. That's when they find love. And I do think you have to, you know, there's a lot of negative rhetoric right now around dating. I mean, every time you open the paper, it's like every time you look at the media, it's like negative. I, on the other hand, am seeing love stories all the time. So I know that love is there. I know that it's just a matter of kind of like getting out of our own way and getting out there and, really, really just embracing the fact that you're lovable.
Mm-hmm. And what can people, if they want to learn more information about you or your work, what can they do?
Sure, sure. All that you need to know is on my website, which is Love Amy. So LOVEAMY.co. That's got everything you need. And I've got a lot of tips on my Instagram page too. I'm always giving tips for people on online dating or offline dating. And there you go. So,
Mm-hmm. And what's your handle for those who want to look you up?
sure. My Instagram handle is love.amy.nyc.
Okay. On that note, all right.